Hey everyone, good morning. Thanks for joining and welcome to adamentor live session. Hope everyone is well. Today's topic is about business school application and received a lot of requests from you guys to cover this. So hopefully today, some of you are thinking about applying to business school will find this helpful. Nah, hari ini kita kedatangan tamu spesial, one of our own mentors di adamentor yang baru aja keterima di Harvard Business School MBA program. So hopefully kita bisa dengar sharing dari Rainer mengenai experience, tips and trick, challenge in application process, dan lain-lain. Kalian bakal surprise by the way, karena Rainer ini orangnya very calm, very low profile, but I'm sure there's a lot to learn from him. So take your notes, and if you have any questions, feel free to drop us questions in slido.com. Kodenya adamentor, just type adamentor and you post your questions there. We covered some of your questions already here soon. Jadi kalau ada more questions, just feel free to add more. And nanti kalau ada yang belum di cover, we will cover those questions at the end of this section. So without further ado, mungkin kita langsung kenalan aja sama tamu kita hari ini, Rainer. How are you, Ray?
I'm good. Thanks, Dre, for having me today. Halo semuanya.
Thanks for your time as well. And congratulations again for getting admitted to Harvard. By the way, kapan nih mulainya di Harvard-nya?
Rencananya sih fly to Boston di Agustus. So the school will start end of August.
I see. So in 2 months.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, maybe sebelum kita mulai, just so that everyone knows, do you mind giving us a quick, just 1 minute introduction to everyone? Nanti abis itu baru kita bisa ngobrol lebih lanjut tentang MBA application.
Yeah, sure. So hi everyone, my name is Rainer. Quick introduction about myself. So I'm a consultant at Bain. I joined the company langsung setelah beres undergrad. So for my undergrad, I studied engineering, economics, and management in the UK at Oxford. So other than consulting, my work experience itu as a product manager at Zenius. So as part of the extension program at Bain, so I spent around 5 months at Zenius helping to build some of the products there. So as Andrea mentioned, I'm planning to go to HBS later this year. Semoga hari ini bisa share sedikit pengalaman waktu kemarin itu apply and bisa bantu teman-teman yang considering applying to business school.
Okay, thanks a lot, Ray. So, okay, so I think hari ini kan kita mau bahas sedikit nih tentang your experience in applying to business school ya. In particular to Harvard, but I think also helpful for buat teman-teman semua yang in general mau apply to business school. Karena mungkin prosesnya secara umum juga mirip, tips and triknya juga mungkin secara umum mirip. So mungkin aku mau bagi discussionnya jadi 3 bagian gitu ya. Mungkin kalau aku boleh share sedikit. Mungkin kita bisa mulai dari when you decide to go to business school, gitu kan, what's your thought process, how you decide about it. Kemudian yang kedua, how you pick the school itself. I mean, we all know you're going to Harvard, but maybe there's other consideration that you have in the process of picking the school. What are those, and maybe would love to hear more. And mungkin yang terakhir, yang mungkin menurut orang-orang biasanya paling takes so much effort and so much time gitu ya, basically in preparing the application itself. So mungkin kita coba cover 3 bagian ini, if that's okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So then let's try to go to the first one, right? On deciding to go to business school. So maybe let's start with a very simple question, right? So, why business school? Like, what makes you want to go to like a business school?
Yeah. So maybe I'll start with general reasons why people consider business school before sharing my own personal reason for going. Sure. I think there are probably a couple of reasons biasa orang itu considering applying to business school, right? One is to accelerate their career, for example, to get them into managerial positions within their own company, for example. Then the other common reason itu what typically switch with, right? It can be geography, misalnya dia mau pindah ke negara lain, work in the US or in Europe and trying different things. And the other thing could be switching roles. It could be within, different function or like totally different role. Misalnya a lot of people want to switch into tech, for example. Right now, it's very hot. And then maybe people want to switch to banking or consulting. I think going to business school helps you with the preparation and with the brand name. You'll be able to land the interview, right? And lastly, what people also benefit from business school too, expanding the network, right? So you get to know people within the school itself when you are in the school, but also with the alumni base, right? So you can tap into those large network of resources. For me personally, a few reasons why I decided to go. I think I decided to go a bit later as a consultant. Biasa kalau in consulting people decide to go waktu mereka analyst or senior analyst, but I applied when I was a consultant. So I felt that my role, again, as I become more senior, the role changes a bit. It's not so much problem solving, but it's about managing team. How do I build credibility in front of like very senior clients? So I think that's something that I feel business school will help in terms of maybe not so much in the short term, but in the long term, based on the training, how you think as an executive when you face a difficult decision, how do you take into account different information? So I think that's one of the things that I feel could benefit from going to business school. The other thing is, I think 2 years would give me good time to reflect and also explore a bit outside of consulting. So previously in Xenius, I did product management. I found that interesting, right? So I want to learn a bit more. Okay, what's the best practice, and hopefully get internship and more work experience and build on that experience. And then lastly, similar to what other people think about, also on network. So I think expanding my network thing would be one of the other benefits I look for when I go to business school.
I see. And you mentioned apa namanya, since you want to, as the role changes, and then you were considered to go to like MBA slightly a bit late, right, compared to other people in general. So kapan tuh kira-kira waktu itu pas mulai consider actually gue mau MBA deh. Terus when you think about those reasons, or when you did your externship with Xenius, itu kapan mulai, atau kayak did you already know kayak at some point I always wanted to do MBA since undergrad misalnya. Kayak when does that thought process happen?
Yeah. So personally for me, I kept going to MBA as an option when I joined Bain. Karena for consultants, again, this is one of the path, right, for consultants take MBA and then come back and become a consultant, right? But again, nowadays it's not a prerequisite for you to get promoted. So actually, there are probably not that many people who actually do an MBA and then come back to consulting, right? So, but I do keep that as an option, and as I go through my years at Bain, I talk to people who did the MBA and also people who don't have an MBA. They understand what are the pros and cons. So I keep that open but undecided for a bit until I guess I hit consultant, and then when I finally decided to, I guess when I was at Xenius, I think seeing things outside of consulting and then getting excited with, there are a lot of things that I actually could benefit from games and learning in classroom. Like I don't really know much about marketing or finance, which I think maybe just the basic foundation I could benefit from going to business school. So I think that time when I did my externship, I think that's when I finally decided
considering. I see. Maybe one follow-up question on that, right? So not everyone will have like consulting background like you, where the pathnya tuh udah clear gitu kan, dari consultant, at this level typically you go for MBA and so on and so forth. For those outside consulting gitu ya, mungkin teman-teman di sini kan sebagian juga nggak semua dari consulting. When do you think is the best time for them to go?
Yeah. Again, I think this is just personal opinion, but I would say you should at least have a certain amount of experience before you actually apply. Karena I think probably the earliest you can go itu sekitar 2-3 tahun setelah kerja. But then if I go to, like, for example, the school website, and then look at the class profile, usually people have 4 to 5 years of experience before they apply. And there's a good reason for that. I think having some work experience helps you in your application. So you have more things that you can share with the admission committee dari segi experience, and you have a bit more varied experience. And think for your own experience in business school, I think having a bit more experience also helps. So you'll get more, I think, out of the experience, and you can also contribute more in class discussion. You can share more with your peers, right? So I think maybe the basic prerequisite is to have certain number of years. Jadi mungkin buat teman-teman yang masih, I don't know, in final year of school, perhaps that's something you can think about and do it maybe much later. But for those who already have experience, maybe 2, 3, or even 5 years, then maybe that's something that you can consider applying, right? And I think kalau misalnya like when is the right time to go depends on the person, right? For me personally, I think you should try to apply when you are ready. And what does it mean? Again, for different people, it's different. I feel like you can always kayak kayak Parno, I can always get a better score, or I can always improve my essay. But I think when you feel like you can put your best application, baik itu dari test score, for example, I'm comfortable with the test score that I have, and then dari segi experience, I have the right ingredients, okay, I have the right experience, that I can share and put in my application. Then I think that's probably the right time for you to apply.
I see. Okay. Thanks a lot for sharing. Makes a lot of sense. You mentioned something about test score. I would like to come back on that a bit later. But I think if that's okay, I think we've covered a bit already about the thought process in deciding to go to business school, right? So maybe we should probably now move on to the second part of the discussion, which is how you choose the school, or what's the thought process in there. But in the meantime, buat teman-teman semua, kalau ada more questions around the first topic, of course, feel free to drop more questions there in slido.com, quote-nya adamentor, and then we can come back to that later on. So, great. On this second topic, right, on picking the school, I think obviously you got into one of the most prestigious one, Harvard, but maybe what will be useful for us is what else that you think useful for business school candidates, right? To narrow down the options, or what's the right way to think about it? Kriterianya apa sih? Gimana sih cara pilih sekolahnya? Obviously, let's say brand is one, but I'm sure there's more beyond that, right?
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
Yeah. So actually, business school tuh banyak banget kan ya. So please do look for those beyond the obvious one. I think strong brand really helps, but at the same time, it's not everything, right? It's what you get out of the program is what matters. A couple of things yang mungkin bisa bantu untuk narrow down which one is the right school for you. So I think one is the program length. Jadi nggak semua MBA program itu mungkin orang-orang tahunya 2 tahun kan. There are programs that are 1 year. So I think if you consider kayak, oh mungkin I don't want to be out of work for that long, or like you want to fund your MBA yourself, mungkin 1 tahun, then you will invest a little bit less, right? So that could be something that people look for, and it will significantly narrow down some of the schools, right? And again, there are a lot of good schools which offer both 1 year and 2 years programs. So do look for them. I think the other thing yang orang biasa umumnya lihat tuh dari segi kurikulum. Again, different schools have different style. Ada yang tahun pertamanya itu semua orang harus belajar sama. It's like required for all. Ada yang offer more flexibility. So for example, if you've done business maybe for your undergrad, you may want more flexibility, take electives that you want. So maybe those are the schools that are right for you. Then the other thing could be the teaching method. Jadi again, different schools beda-beda. Ada yang normal lecture, profesornya like speak for the whole class, and you can ask questions. Ada yang a bit more interactive. So like HBS, for example, typically is more famous for like case study. Jadi kayak everyone has to contribute. The lecturer itu or the professor is more like a facilitator. So you actually learn from the peers, right? So that's another thing that you can take into account. And again, different schools are known for different things. Kan ada yang very strong in certain things like finance or maybe in entrepreneurship. So again, those are some of the things yang I think for curriculum, right, that you can look into. The other thing matters for a lot of people juga dari segi location. Location could play a role. For example, misalnya proximity to certain hubs, misalnya tech hubs. You want to be very close to certain tech ecosystem, misalnya like tech hub, so you can meet VCs, you can meet founders easily while you're in business school. Then they could play a role. The other thing too, I know people they actually pick a specific region because they want to move from another region. Again, earlier tadi kan I mentioned one of the common reasons why people go is to switch career, right? It could be switching geography. So I know people who came to Asia, take a business school here because they want to build their career in Asia. They're interested in the region. So I think could be something that you can consider juga. And then another thing about schools itu yang beda-beda itu dari segi class size-nya. So HBS, for example, admit sekitar 900, even I think my cohort will be like 1,000 orang. So it's a really, really big class. Sedangkan ada program lain yang lebih kecil, like 350 to 400 students. So there are pros and cons. 1,000 orang, you may meet so many different people. You get to learn from people from different countries. We call a smaller class size. Maybe the benefit would be you may have a stronger bond maybe with your people in the cohort. So that's something that you can consider. And I think the class size will also kind of impact, influence the size of the alumni juga. So that may be something you want to consider. Like, for example, I want to go into certain region. If the school has bigger alumni in that region, maybe that could help. So again, there are quite a lot of things that you should consider when try to pick the right school. Please do spend time to do your due diligence. Yeah, so get to know the schools, and I would strongly recommend like go beyond all the HBS, Stanford, or what, because there are a lot of good schools out there.
I see. That's sounds a very comprehensive list, really. So if I may just follow up a bit more on that one, I think out of the 5, 6, 7 criteria that you mentioned, right? Like, what do you like personally about HBS? Like, what will be your top 2, 3 reasons?
Yeah, I think one is the class size. So it's probably one of the biggest. So I'll get to meet people from different backgrounds, different countries, and different roles. So I think one of the things I want to get out of business school juga is learning from my peers, right, who are doing great things, I think, before coming to business school. And because the class size is quite big, then the alumni juga is big, right? So I think that's something that I think is good. The last thing, I think at this point, I feel like it's more daunting for me dari segi teaching methodnya. So again, I mentioned before, kalau HBS tuh tipenya belajarnya case method, where you have to speak up in a class. The professor will just be facilitator, so you have to be comfortable speaking in front of a big group of people and defend your argument. I mean, that's not something that I find super comfortable, but I think it'll be good for my growth. So
it will stretch yourself.
Yeah.
I see. Got it. Cool. I think we covered quite a bit as well on this one. Hopefully, it gives it sheds some light for the audience, or buat teman-teman semua, in how we should pick the school. Maybe we can move also quickly to the third bucket here, which is preparing the application. And maybe before we do that, as you know, there's a lot of opinion or misconception or facts versus myth on this particular topic, right, on preparing the application. So maybe we will start with this section. I'll show you. I have 5 statements, and I will show you in a bit, one by one. And do you mind telling me whether you agree or disagree with that statement, and why, before we go into more details, if that's okay with you?
Yep, sure.
Yeah. So okay. So the first statement is you must have above 700 GMAT and above 3.5 GPA in order to get in. And when I say get in here, it means the top business schools. Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah. So I personally would say disagree, but I would put a disclaimer because I'm not the admission committee. I don't know how they think. So this is just my personal opinion.
Of course.
I think it's not true. If you go to the class profile, right, it is for some of the top schools, the median or average score typically it is with like for GMAT, it's more than 700, right? So could be as high as like 730. But then again, if you look at the range, they admit people from a bigger range gitu kayak sub 600 itu mereka juga admit, right? So scores is not everything. If you look at what they look for juga, it's not just about your academic ability. And there are a lot of parts in the application. Later on, I think we plan to cover application, right? So there are actually a lot of parts where you can highlight your academic ability, not just from the score, but you can use your the application form or recommenders to boost that, right? But personally, I would say if you can do aim for a good score again, just because
I guess that's also
it's
the
very
case
competitive. No, no, no. I mean, yeah, my score is not that like super high, but it's decent.
I see. But I guess what you're saying is also like if you don't have these kind of score, don't be discouraged and still give it a shot. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So next statement. Applying to many schools is not a good strategy. Do you agree or disagree?
I would say I disagree. So you want to try to maximize if you want to get an MBA and you want to maximize your chances of getting an offer as much as possible, I think you should try to apply to more than one school. Again, the admission rate tu mungkin buat teman-teman yang nggak tahu, it's quite low, sekitar mungkin 10-15%, mungkin ada bahkan yang di bawah 10%, right? So just looking at it alone, it's if you apply to just one school, then the admission rate is quite low. And I think if you apply to a few more schools, I think it will help. Definitely apply to your dream school, but also select a few other schools which you don't mind going, right? But having said that, kalau misalnya apply di one round, don't apply to too many schools. You can do that, but maybe you want to budget a bit more time. Alasannya, different schools have different applications, requirements beda-beda. So if you apply to too many schools, you cannot focus and you cannot put the best application, right? So
I see.
Yeah.
So in your opinion, what would be the magic number? What is too many? What is too?
I think maybe like 3-4 schools applying in one round is good enough. Yeah.
I see. Cool. Next statement. If you don't get into your top schools, it's not worth it going. Do you agree or disagree?
I think it really depends on the reason why you want to go to business school. So if your goal is just to get an MBA, I think if you get an offer, then I personally think you should go. And again, this comes down to your application, the awal and your due diligence. When you apply, it does take a lot of time and cost something juga kan. So you make sure that when you apply, don't just apply to random schools, but really, your dream schools, obviously, but also schools that you don't mind going to. So if you want to really get just an MBA and you happen to get one of the offers, then I would strongly recommend you want to go. But I know some people maybe just want to go to certain schools and don't want to consider other things. And if you don't get it, then don't go. I think that's also fine.
Got it. Interesting. So I have 2 more statements. The fourth one will be business school is very expensive. So only those who can afford it can actually go. Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah. So I think the first part of the statement, unfortunately, is true. I think the application and the tuition fee alone is expensive, right? Like for 2-year program in the US, usually costs like 100K. Yeah. So unfortunately, it's expensive, but I think nowadays ada cukup banyak options. I think for some of us who want to go. Jadi ada scholarships, for example, itu pun ada dari government misalnya, PDP. Terus kemudian ada juga dari company sponsorship, for example, typically, like consulting firms or like big tech firms or other bigger firms, they may be willing to sponsor. Tapi scholarships typically come with some requirements. Jadi kayak harus, I don't know, go back to your region or like serve the company for X number of years. Another option yang people take to like loan, for example, can take a loan. And umumnya banyak orang yang udah lulus MBA, typically they experience like salary jump. So in a couple of years, like 5-10 years perhaps, they can pay off the loan. So those are, actually, if you really want to go, there are ways for you to kind of sponsor it. So and schools also offer financial aid. Maybe not like full amount, but then there are ways like they're willing to help. And if you just look for the options, then I'm sure there's a way to sponsor or fund your MBA.
I see. So it sounds like there's a range of options that candidates can actually explore to do this business school sponsorship.
Yep.
Okay. Then my last statement here that I have is preparing for the application takes a lot of time and effort. Do you agree or disagree?
Generally, yeah, I agree. Karena again, we can talk a bit more about it. There are quite a lot of components. The application tadi kan we touch on GMAT. It's one of the standardized test score yang umumnya you have people take, right, for MBA, and just studying for that alone cukup lama. And then reflecting and then writing the essay itself, filling the application. There's a recommendation to give time juga kan ke your recommenders supaya mereka bisa punya cukup waktu untuk submit. I know they're usually busy people juga kan, so you do want to budget enough time, and especially if you apply to more than one school kan, so you need to make sure that your application too tailored to different schools, so do need to budget sufficient time.
Got it. I see. And if we maybe do you mind elaborate more? I think you touched the point around there's a lot of different components, and that's why it takes a lot of time and effort. You need to budget time early, especially if you're applying to many schools. But what are those key components, right? If you were to list it down a bit for everyone to understand. And maybe we can talk a bit more on each, or like what's the complication or what's the challenges on each part.
So secara garis besar dari segi application-nya, yang pertama itu ada tes ya. So tadi kan bilang ada GMAT, bisa GMAT atau GRE, but I think business school a lot more people take GMAT. Jadi itu buat teman-teman yang nggak tahu, itu like a standardized test. They test for your quantitative skill, and then verbal reasoning, then writing juga kalau nggak salah. I think similar for GMAT, GRE. Terus untuk teman-teman yang nggak sekolah di, I think, non-English speaking countries, then you need to take, I think, TOEFL just to prove that you'll be able to cope with the demand academic rigor of the school. So that takes a bit of time kan. Then the next part of the application yang cukup besar itu dari segi essay. So different school bakal ada essay prompt-nya masing-masing, and can be satu essay doang, bisa ada yang satu essay and a few mini essays. So again, different schools itu different, jadi explain your exploration, etc. Terus kemudian yang ketiga itu ada recommendation. Jadi umumnya itu sekolah minta recommendation letters dari 2 orang, so it could be your supervisor from your work, right? Then after that you have your resume, so your typical CV, and then the application form itself. Nah, application form ini juga, I think something I found out waktu apply itu, you should try to log in to the application form early, karena sebenarnya dalamnya itu isinya banyak. So it's not just asking for your personal details. It asks for a lot of stuff, kayak your personal history, kayak of professional experience gitu, and not just kayak list, tapi kayak share kayak responsibility-nya apa, and then list down your achievements. Again, different schools are different, so if possible try to log in early and then see kayak what are some of the things that they ask you. And then kalau misalnya udah itu, those are the major things that you need to submit untuk submit application-nya. Nah, as part of the application juga ada interview. Jadi if you actually get screened or like the admission committee likes your application, biasanya 1 bulan perhaps after submitting application, mereka bakal release notifications for those who get interviewed. Nah, biasa I think after that you have maybe 2 to 3 weeks to prepare for the interview, and then go for the interview, and then wait another month for your decision. So those are the major components of the application, I would say.
Yeah. And I guess the interview part comes later once you you submit, you receive the invite for interview, and then you start preparing for that. So the first major part is essentially preparing all the different components for the application itself, right? Including filling in the application form yang tadi you mentioned takes a lot of time juga. Tapi kalau dari segi timeline sendiri, misalkan kita untuk prepare kayak these tests gitu kan, GMAT, TOEFL, ideally berapa lama tuh kayak gitu? Or maybe in your personal experience, how did it work?
Untuk tes, I think people recommend kayak 100 jam kali. So again, it depends on kayak how much time you have. Misalnya mungkin banyak yang udah kerja kan, so maybe weekday is a bit hard kan.
Bagi waktunya
so
kan
have to do but maybe we can only put kayak I don't know 8-10 hours. So you probably will need like I don't know 10 weeks, right? To prepare for GMAT, and maybe budget sometime juga if you want to retake, for example. Jadi kan kadang-kadang mungkin pertama kali ambil tes and then you're nervous and then you don't actually get the score that you want, or mungkin skornya beda sama when you do practice, misalnya lebih you're calmer, right? So me want to take just to maximize your chance, but if you don't retake, it's also okay, right? If you're comfortable with the score.
I see. I guess that doesn't apply to you kali ya.
No. Actually retook once, but then I didn't plan properly, so my second test actually my score was slightly lower than my first score, so I ended up using my first one. But yeah, that's just more poor planning. Yeah.
Interesting. So actually, you retook the test and then
yes. I think maybe one advice that I could give learning from my mistake itu when you should kayak if you decide to do GMAT misalnya, try to do the diagnostic test supaya bisa tahu where you're weak at. Some people itu weaknya I think a lot of people mungkin verbal kali. But then some people mungkin will be weak in quant, and that's where you want to spend a bit more time, and so that you get to score well and understand kayak itu tuh what is the test like. Jadi it's like adaptive if I'm not wrong. Jadi if you get more questions correct, then makin lama makin susah gitu kan. And there's time, so make sure you practice juga kayak in actual time pressure situation.
I see. Yeah.
For the other parts of the application, the one that took me a lot of time itu di essay-nya sendiri. So that's
I think
probably
for most of us kayak a lot of candidates also say kayak essay is probably the nightmare gitu kan, kayak that's the most challenging part kayak how like what was your experience on that one?
Yeah. Mungkin sharing sedikit juga kali ya untuk before I share my own personal experience, kayak what teman-teman yang mungkin nggak tahu ini essay-nya essay apa sih, kayak what do they ask for, right? So I guess typically pertanyaannya setiap sekolah beda-beda, but cara garis besar it covers maybe 4 things that you need to think about or what they look for gitu kan. Yang pertama itu kayak why an MBA, yang kedua itu why you want to go now, for example. And then yang ketiga itu why you want to go to specific business school that you're applying to. And then last one itu why you. So again, the questions itu it comes in different forms pertanyaannya, but broadly speaking, this is the 4 things that you should try to write in your applications in general. And yeah, for me it took a bit of time, jadi kayak have to do a bit of reflection. I think a lot of people for one school, misalnya dream school, typically maybe spend 2-3 months making sure that you have you figure out what your story is, terus to refining maybe multiple drafts, right? So I can talk about like a specific part, all the 4 components, right? For why MBA, I think one of the advice I got from my senior too is to be specific in terms of what it is that you want to do or your aspiration gitu. Jadi kayak misalnya making it up, kayak misalnya if you want to go into investing, right? So be specific on which part gitu. Karena anyone can say I want to go into investing gitu and make a difference to my career, right? But be specific. Like for example, is there specific geography, specific industry where you want to focus and how you want to make an impact misalnya. And from there, then you can work backwards. Is there a gap in my skill that I can get from MBA? So that's something that you can use to position this first part, like why MBA. And for me, I spend a bit of time just listing down, brainstorming what are some of the key milestones in my life, kayak misalnya mulai dari choosing subject in university, or like the extracurriculars you do, the work that you do, okay, why you pick a certain type of work, what energizes you. I think once you have that, then try to connect the dots so you can figure out what energizes you, what you want to use your MBA time, and what you want to explore after that. I think that's the main thing about why MBA. Kalau yang untuk why go to specific business school, again, it's comes down to research. You have to do your due diligence, and the schools, they organize a lot of sessions kayak webinars. Do try to join them. Beberapa school juga, they actually come to misalnya Indo di Jakarta umumnya, so you can attend some of these sessions. And for me personally, yang paling gampang itu is to talk to current student atau alumni to understand kayak pengalamannya kayak gimana, why they applied. I think that's probably the easiest and fastest way to get to know kayak seluk-beluknya particular school. Yeah, and then lastly for why you, again, as part of your research, when you look at the schools, different schools look for different things, so they will have that in their website. So if you go look for it, make sure you demonstrate the traits that they look for. So again, make sure you tailor your examples, experience to the school that you're applying to. So yeah, I think that's mainly about application.
I think if I were to summarize what you described, I think one big component is definitely a lot of like self-reflection, right? That you did to come up with the right reasons and the right ingredients for the essay. And the second one is also like do your own homework and then do your research about the school. Maybe I'm just out of curiosity, did you also talk to anyone during the process? Did you get advice from other people or not really?
Yeah, so I think that's actually something that I found most helpful. To share my essay application with other people. I think yang paling useful for me too, sharing it with the current student and alumni there. Jadi, so I happen to have a senior yang ada di HBS, for example. So thankfully mereka baik banget, so they spend a few hours with me, go through an essay, giving some feedback on what I can maybe highlight a bit more, and then share their own experience juga kan. But then I also shared it with my close friends, so they know me quite well juga kan. So they actually provide advice on, okay, maybe you want to highlight this thing more. Sometimes you may not be able to see something that other people see as a strength, so they can help to highlight that and make it a bit more personal. So do make sure that do share it with someone so that they can see, and like orang yang belum pernah lihat, or someone who knows you well, or maybe someone who maybe want to help you, or but you don't know you very well, they can take it from the lens of the admission committee, misalnya kayak orang yang don't know about you and read from it. Does he or she get to know who you are, what your strengths are? So I think those would be very helpful. You're right.
So actually, it's okay to also share your draft with other people and then discuss about it.
Yeah. I mean, if you trust them, you can share it with them. And, I think that's helpful actually.
I see. And how does like your previous experience that you have, right, from the work experience, from consulting, from your externship with Xenius, does that also help during the process in crafting these?
Yeah, definitely. I think for consulting experience itself, mungkin yang bantu itu dari segi experience-nya kali. Because as a consultant, you work on so many different projects, and so you work on different projects, you work with different clients in different regions. So I get to figure out what I like and what I don't like, where I'm good at, and I can highlight that my application, and helps me to narrow down, I guess, what I like and what energizes me gitu. Jadi thankfully I have experience outside consulting juga kan, so I get to see what's out there that actually I really enjoy doing it and appreciate in outside consulting and inside consulting. So I think that definitely helps. But again, I'm sure everyone has their own experience, and so if you do take the time to reflect a bit more on your decisions so far, why you do certain things, then you can use that as something for your application.
Understood. Okay, I think you've shared a lot of tips and tricks and your experience as well so far, from deciding to go, choosing the school, and preparing the application itself. Maybe if I may, just to quickly wrap up this discussion, and before we go to the Q&A, I saw there's some questions coming in. Maybe we can pick some of those that haven't been covered so far. But maybe before we go there, last question from me would be, so what would be your top advice, right, to the aspiring candidates for or aspiring applicants? Obviously, you mentioned a lot of good points before, but what would be your top, let's say, top two, top three advice?
I think mungkin tadi udah dibahas dikit ya kali, but I want to stress, I think planning ahead helps. So budget enough time untuk bisa make sure that you submit on time. I would say maybe 3-4 months for the application itself, excluding the test kalian. Maybe the test again, that 100 hours, maybe 2 months. So I don't know, for 4 or 5 months before budget, make sure you have enough time to submit. Then the other thing mungkin dari segi application itself, one thing that you guys should consider itu, tadi kan dibilang ada banyak bagian dari application-nya ya. So need to think about kayak where you wanna highlight certain things in which part of the application. Jadi misalnya, if you wanna highlight certain things, maybe your recommender is best placed to highlight your strength in leadership misalnya, versus like putting it in resume. Karena again, essay, application form, CV, ada limitnya. CV is like typically just 1 page. Essay is just misalnya 500-750 words. So you may not be able to put everything in your essay. So do consider, like, think about where you want to put certain parts of your application in different parts. So you spend some time thinking about it. And then lastly, could do your due diligence on the school. I think that would be very helpful. And again, for me personally, yang paling gampang itu talk to the current student or alumni. So do reach out to your network. Sometimes cold emailing or could also help. So I'm sure there are people out there who are willing to help.
Got it. Okay, thanks a lot for sharing, Ray. I'm just looking at the questions we have and try to see which one we have not covered. Maybe I'll start with these. There's a question around what will be the wrong reasons for taking an MBA, and related to that, on your personal experience, did you use admission consultant?
Yeah. So
maybe let's start with that.
Yeah, I think I used the someone for my interview process. So I happened to work with a manager who is an alumni of HBS, so she recommended me to use admission consultant for the interview part. Again, I think for admission consultant juga kan ada banyak jenisnya. I think those probably help you all along the way. But then for me, I just pick those that for the interview. Nah, kalau for the rest of application, thankfully, what I found helpful too, speaking to the alumni, so sharing my application, I think they provide really good advice in that.
I see. And related to the first question, what are the wrong reasons for taking an MBA? Any thoughts on that one?
Good question. I'm not sure, but maybe if you're not clear maybe on like what you want to do for your MBA, maybe that's may not be the best use of your time. Karena kan, again, MBA takes 2 years out of your time. Again, maybe it's not long, but it's not short juga kan. So it takes you out of your work when you can maybe build experience. So if you don't know, maybe those 2 years will fly by and you may not get the most out of the experience. and it costs a lot juga kan, so it may not be the best investment. So if you're not super clear and just mungkin coba-coba and maybe you get something, then maybe that's not the right reason. But I know, sometimes for some people, MBA could be a good break juga kan. Okay, you work for a long time, so you want to take 2 years slower pace, and that's also valid reason, to be honest. Yeah. So I don't know for sure, but yeah, for me maybe kalau you don't really know how you spend that 2 years or why MBA matters for you, then maybe it's not the right reason to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The other question I have is here we have, I think it's related to what you described earlier, but is there any other tips in navigating application process, in the sense that how many schools did you apply to? And I guess then if you apply to quite a few of a bit of schools, then how do you, let's say, manage the phase? Which one comes first? Which one do you do first? Things like that.
Yeah, I applied to 3 schools. I think kalau misalnya dari segi tips lainnya, I guess can't think of any. I mean, some people think, should probably apply in round 1 or round 2. Round 1 typically September, October, right? Round 2 to January. I don't have a strong opinion. Okay, it doesn't seem to matter too much which round you go for. But usually, people apply round 1, round 2 kali. Some schools masih ada round 3, but then by round 3, usually a lot of spots have been taken up kan. So maybe round 3 can be quite competitive just to fill up those last spots, right? So I would say maybe apply for round 1 or round 2. I personally applied for round 1 just because I felt at the time I was ready.
You applied all 3 in round 1?
Yeah, in round 1.
See.
So, but there's nothing wrong with applying round 2 as well. I mean, but again, for 1 round, I would suggest you don't apply to too many schools unless you, I don't know, maybe plan like 1 or 2 years ahead of time, perhaps. Because different schools have different requirements. You need to spend time to make sure you put the best application for each school.
Yeah. Okay. Let me see if you have more questions. There's one around the goal. So the question is, I heard the business school prefers applicants whom have impactful goals in mind. But how do we approach the application if our genuine goal is to boost career? Any thoughts on that one?
So again, I don't know how the admission committee thinks, but I hear that some of the metrics yang business school cares about is their ranking in, like, I don't know, a lot of different rankings, right, of business school. So why that matters is usually the first thing people go for or to apply or look for school is like, mana yang rankingnya paling bagus kan. So that's usually some of the things that helps people narrow down the options. And how do you get into some of these higher rankings? Right? Usually, a common metric across all two usually get the salary of the people post graduation, right? So actually, if your goal is to boost your career and helps you accelerate your career, personally, I don't think that works against you. And if anything, perhaps it's actually beneficial for the school, right? Even though I don't think any school will outright say that, you will basically like people who only think about accelerating their career. And actually, I mean, as part of your accelerating your career, you can always position it or use it to benefit people, and it doesn't always have to change the world. Like if you just make an impact in your team, in your organization, I think that also matters. So you don't always have to create life-changing impact to put a good application, personally.
Yeah. Thank you, Ray. We also have a bit of technical question here, very specific to GMAT on the verbal side. Do you mind sharing your learning strategy for this topic? That's the question.
I see. I think for verbal, what helps is to read quite a lot earlier. I did this a long time ago, so I can't remember what I did. Tapi I think kalau misalnya buat teman-teman yang jarang baca misalnya, especially don't read a lot of English text, I would highly recommend you start doing so. So you read different things gitu, nggak cuma news, read maybe fiction, non-fiction, because they'll test you on like your comprehension kan, and the faster you read, the faster you digest information, I think the better it is. And then the other thing itu verbal itu, there are a lot of components, right? There's like reading part, ada yang I think sentence correction, can't remember what else, but there are different components. So you need to know specifically which part you are weak at, and try to focus on that. So again, you need to like taking the diagnostic, like I mentioned earlier, too helps. So you know which part you're weak at, and then just go from there. And actually, for me, dari segi resources, banyak banget sebenarnya di internet. Like sometimes I just go to the forums gitu. Kayak forums kan kadang-kadang ada pertanyaannya, and then a lot of people will discuss. And then you just need to look at the ones with the right answers for you to practice.
Got it. Cool. We have more questions, but I think we can take one more and then we can wrap up. Most of the questions here, mungkin buat teman-teman, feel free to also play back this video later after we are done, since some of these, I'm sure Rainer has covered it earlier in our discussion. So maybe one last question before we wrap up from the audience here. What are the things that you look forward to in the next 2 years at HBS? I think that's a nice question to wrap this up.
Yeah. I think meeting different people earlier. So hopefully things will go back to normal, because I think last year it's more like a hybrid and people don't meet in person. So hopefully get to have a normal MBA experience. I think I look forward to meeting different people, and then again, HBS is very big cohort, so I'm sure I'll be able to meet different people, learn from their experience, and I think just doing something outside of consulting and having some time to kind of reflect and think about what I want to focus on, I think, in my career after MBA.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks a lot, Ray, once again for sharing your experience, tips, and tricks with us. I'm sure that helps buat semuanya juga who's thinking about these and preparing an application. So thanks a lot once again.
No, thanks for having me.
Taking the time. And buat teman-teman semuanya, we would also like to hear any feedback, suggestions that you have. Feel free to drop us a note, comments in our Instagram, YouTube channels, or feel free to also WhatsApp us. Stay tuned for our next session and follow our Instagram. We will post more updates there. And feel free to also let us know what will be the interesting topic that you want for the next session. Cool. So that's all from me, and that's all what we have in store for today. Thank you, and see you again in the next session. Great. Thanks a lot again.
Thank you, Dre.
See you. Good luck at HBS.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.